Hey, what's up? So, I know I made a video. My last video that I made was called it's like this is a video. It's a video just for me. It was about nothing for nobody, and it was just me expressing myself. And it felt silly public posting it too, a little bit. I mean, just because I don't know. It's a funny thing having a YouTube channel and why I do this. I mean, I guess the reason why I do it is because I have a lot of things that come up in my life and I have nobody to share them with. And not everything is something that I'm necessarily going to write down and put into my book. So, I mean, everything ends up there anyways, but it's like I don't need to put it in there just like immediately. So this gives me an outlet, and it helps me just to have somebody to talk to. I mean, it's essentially therapy, and it's free. And I really appreciate that, just to have somebody that you can just say the things that you need to say to, without judgment, right? Of course, there's comments and stuff, but, I've turned comments on, I've turned comments off. I mean, now I turn them on and I just don't read them. And I need to do that for my own mental health. I feel it's unhealthy to get caught up in other people's opinions and things, whatever they have to say about myself and the things that I share in my journey. So it's, that's it's a thing. And so, yeah, I guess, oh, I've been through a lot in the last little while, so I ended up having to go up north to this place, not that far, but it's called 100 Mile House. It's like 5 hours north, and it was quite an experience going up there, and it was a painting job. I'm not a painter, but I've done a lot of it, and so I went up there because I needed the money, because it's just work is short right now. And so that gets me to thinking too, I'm not impressed with the situation where my livelihood and therefore everything that's attached to, I mean, it's attached to your well-being and stuff like that, because if you're not bringing in money, you can't do some of the things that you may feel like you want to do. You might, yeah, I mean, it can cause stress and stuff like that. So it's important to have your affairs in order, right? And I just, I find myself at the mercy of other people's lives and whatnot. And this is nothing new for me. I mean, it's clearly a lesson that I'm needing to learn, but here I am, a 42-year-old man in a situation where it's like, yeah, like I said, I'm at the mercy of other people's lives and the way that their stuff pans out, and then I just kind of have to deal with whatever they're going through because I am subject to that. And it's frustrating, it's because it's not where I want to be, and I accept it because I know that in my life I have chosen a bit of a different path. Like I've had a few businesses and I've walked away from them because I have this thing in me that says don't do anything that's not in your heart. Like if I'm an expression of consciousness, I'm here, I have some gift to give. So it's like, don't get yourself too involved in anything that that isn't an expression of who you are as a person, because if you do, then you're going to be going to work and doing that thing, putting a lot of time and energy, effort into that endeavor and cultivating it as well. You get caught up in it, and it doesn't, and all it does is put money in your pocket. I mean, wow, like one life to live. I mean, I don't, there's that saying, you only live once. I don't agree with that at all. But like, I think the point is that you're alive right now. So it's like, make the best use of it. You came here for a reason. And it wasn't to do things that aren't in your heart, that don't touch your soul, that don't speak to a place that's deeper inside of you, that says, yeah, this is why I'm here. This feels right. I'm contributing. This is good. And so, yeah, pretty challenging, and at the same time, grateful for the work. I went up there, but it was like essentially like being in camp, because you're just on somebody else's schedule, and they're pushing a pace and stuff like that. And there was other, like any situation, there's things that come up and challenges. I mean, and so I went up with a couple of guys that are a part of the Alcoholics Anonymous program. And so I ended up tagging along. It was the nightly thing to go and get dinner, and then go to an AA meeting. And so I went to a couple of these things, and it was eye-opening. It's where I kind of felt like, about making these videos and whatnot. Like, I have made a lot of videos that are just about a subject, whether, like about health or about God or about COVID or something like that. And that's fine. And then I made that video, which was just about nothing for no one, but then I went to these meetings, and a part of it, involves people just sharing their story, especially when there's somebody that's new to the program. And so then they just kind of go around and people say, yeah, this is what happened. And that's how I ended up here. And, and people say, you never know who needs to hear what you have to say. And that, I mean, it not at the time, but certainly now it kind of resonates with me, because it's just like, like I said, I made that video about nothing for no one. I mean, it's just about life, about my life and the things that I go through as a person. But yeah, like you never know who might need to hear just some tiny little thing that you say, the way that you said it, just, the way that you phrased something, or that you framed it, that they can relate to. And it, it's like, yeah, that's right. And it reminds you of something that you like already know, but you're just trying to figure out, right? And like, yeah, I just, that I just think that's kind of powerful, right? I mean, I suppose that's why it's a part of that program is they're very regimented in how they do things. It's a part of the protocol is to sit there and share those kinds of stories. And so, yeah, it got me to thinking. It's not like I've been thinking about it, but just kind of what it's come to. It's like I had quite the experience, and once again, nobody to share it with. And so I find myself sitting here once again, because if I don't get it out, it's just going to run circles inside of me, and I don't want that. I'd rather just process it in some way, externalize it, and then move on to other things in my life. And so yeah, and so I guess that's another one of those reasons why I make YouTube videos, because you just never know who's listening and what they might need to hear. It's impossible to know that kind of stuff, which is, maybe why it's, somewhat, I don't know if the right word is important, but yeah, sort of important to share. I mean, if you have something to say, if you have something to share, even if it's just your story, your little life, the things that you went through or are going through, struggles or challenges, trials and tribulations of life. I mean, we all go through that. It's because it's like, as I think it's like the game is psychological at the end of the day. Um, and yeah, we're all dealing with the same stuff. I mean, there's challenges no matter how much money you got or how many friends you think you have, or, I mean, you will run into just, yeah, it's challenging life, right? And so anyways, yeah, I went up there and I did this. I mean, it was an interesting experience. Going to AA meetings, there were certainly a few red flags. I mean, going into it, there's a teacher of mine, Dr. David R. Hawkins, wrote a book. I just consider him my teacher, right? Is the way that I, just to be clear, because I recognize him as such. And so, and he wrote a book called Power versus Force, and he's written many books, but Power versus Force is a very famous one. And also, there's another one, really good one, Letting Go. I mean, I'm sure everything by that guy is great, but anyways, and he talks about the power of that particular system of helping people, with people who go to AA, to deal with their alcoholism. And because it involves, I went there and to be honest, there was a few things that were red flags for me. One is like, you're not allowed to talk about anything but alcohol. And it's like, well, I get that, to keep things focused so that we don't get too, because if you start talking about just vice in general, if you're talking, because it's like, where's all this stuff coming from? And like for me, it's like, it has to do with, yeah, like there's a lot of stuff, loneliness, or a lack of support, a lack of the right kind of role models, and certainly then terrible role models, and like addiction, right? I mean, it's because when I went there, there's people who, it's like, okay, you're dealing with your alcohol addiction and that's what they're there for, and that's why they have these rules. But it's just like, how do you single out one vice and then ignore another? I mean, I get it in that context of an AA meeting that it's necessary, because, you could say there's a lot of things that people are addicted to. And I'm talking things like weed. I'm talking things like cigarettes. I'm talking things like food. And also things like entertainment, just zoning out. I mean, what's the difference between getting high and zoning out, or ingesting something, or just like turning on this thing, that a TV, which then takes you on a ride, and you have all this, it releases, what, hormones, chemicals, dopamine, things like that, because you go through this experience, right? I mean, it's like the whole entertainment industry, people distracting themselves, that is just as much of a drug as anything else, or sex, porn, that kind of thing. I mean, it's all, but so that was, I had to, like I said, I can see essentially why, because it is such a huge subject. I guess that's why it's important to focus on the one thing, because so like one thing at a time. And I agree with that, so putting it in that context, one thing at a time, sure, right? But also getting to the root cause of things. And so, yeah, I mean, but yeah, people shared stuff, and it was good. There was some things that people said that resonated with me, and things that didn't. And like, but overall, it it was an interesting experience. You know, you definitely seen the camaraderie there. I mean, people who have been going through the same thing coming together to support one another. I mean, that's huge. Like Buddha talks about the importance of the sangha, meaning like a community which keeps you accountable, which keeps, you know, just something that you're a part of, something that you can, you know. So that was a big thing, you know. And yeah, I mean, I went up there, I did that. It was challenging, like I said, being around people that I wouldn't normally hang out with, right? I mean, just not saying that there's anything wrong with them, but they're just, you know, like, so I was very, yeah, kind of like a fish out of water there for a bit. And like, I have a serious introverted side to me as well. And so just to be around other people who are not predominantly introverted for extended periods of time, that are of a different age group as myself as well, it was very challenging because I just need my time to myself and to not be asked questions and to have the things that I'm doing being commented on constantly. It is just not something that I appreciate, I suppose. But character building, right? Because that's the thing, you find yourself in a situation which is challenging. I mean, you can, you know, I tell you, I had to bite my tongue a few times, and I'm really glad that I did. There was some times when it was just, there was some things going on that I didn't agree with, but you know, I made it through and didn't burn any bridges. I didn't you know what they say is keeps coming up. It's, you don't bite the hand that feeds you, and you don't poop where you sleep, right? Those are things that are, you know, I mean, if you want to keep working, right? So yeah, it was challenging, but made it through. And I think I got exactly what I needed out of the whole scenario, because at the end of the day, it gave me some perspective. It helped to put some things into perspective in my life. And then certainly coming back and being like, wow, that was an ordeal that I got into there, and learned some stuff. But holy smokes, we got to be careful about that happening again, and then just coming back to my own situation in life here with just my own life and everything that I'm doing. And I was feeling a bit challenged with my writing, and I've discovered why. Because my life is unbalanced, and I'm not the greatest conduit for creative expression when I'm in a situation which which is unbalanced, and that is my life right now. Yeah, and so coming back, it's like, wow, I need to rethink my entire life. I mean, it's not an existential crisis. It's not like my world is crumbling. But it's like, you know, take note of everything that's going on around you, and the situation that you find yourself in, and, you know, strive for balance, and that's what I have been doing. But then all of a sudden everything changes, and then all of a sudden I'm here. It was different when I was traveling all the time in my car. It was different when I had a ton of money, when I was from the sale of my house all those years ago. It was, and so it's just this constant adapting to these ever-changing situations. I mean, I think I even have a chapter in my book about this, but it brings up something that's what mescaline, which is a plant medicine that is derived from peyote cactuses and San Pedro or Peruvian torch or Bolivian torch, or there's a number of cacti, and that's what one of the things that it helps with is because it is like the divine masculine. So you could, I'm not gonna, well, I just use the word. No, I'm not gonna use it. The word is God, but I'm not gonna, because yeah, I'm not gonna go there. And so, because the point is though, is just that like life is nonstop. You don't get breaks. I mean, you might plateau for a minute, and then comes the next wave of everything that you need to deal with. And that can be challenging. And that's something that medicine can really help with. People who, yeah. I mean, we're all different, right? I mean, different energies, personality types, and stuff like that. So it's like, but yeah, anyway, so just, yeah, coming back and, reassessing my situation and not falling into the same pattern as before. That was really why I went up there. Aside from, it's good to work for money, was to break the chain of events, to stop any kind of a pattern that I was in, to step away from my life, to go through an ordeal, and then come back with new eyes opened. And it's just like, okay, how do we handle this situation with greater, I don't know if the word is not efficacy, but just like more organized, more mindful, more balanced, right? How to approach life, be more mature about absolutely everything that I'm doing. And so, and coming back, it was just, it's been funny. It's just been one thing after another, and almost getting caught up in certain things. And it's just like, it's something that I've been increasingly becoming aware of, is something to do with inherent sickness. Going to these AA meetings, hanging out with certain people, getting involved with them, with certain groups of people, in all kinds of situations, circumstances, that kind of stuff. It's just like, with, I'm not into naming names and pointing fingers, but because you know what they say about that. But there, in many circumstances, in many places that you might find yourself in, there is an inherent sickness. And if you're sick yourself, you probably don't know how to recognize it. You might recognize it on a level, but you don't let your mind go there, because if you were to recognize it, then you would have to deal with it. So you essentially have to kind of put up a block where it's just like, I don't get it. I don't want to get it, kind of a deal. And I mean, it's nobody's place to put you in your place, right? It's nobody, you can't tell somebody else, be like, oh, well, this is what you need to know. This is what you need to focus on. This is what you should do. You don't know what anybody else needs for their life, But like, and I've just come to recognize, I've recognized this in the past, certainly to do with work situations and living situations, is that sometimes there is inherent what I would consider to be an inherent sickness. There is something that's going on. I mean, it has a lot to do with the mind. It has to do with the ego. It has to do with negativity. It has to do with mentality. It has to do with attitudes. It has to do with relationships. It has to do with science and spirituality. It has to do with stuff, money, just everything. I mean, yeah, and it's, and there's something, so there's a guy, Jiddu Krishnamurti, he said, Indian scholar, and he said, it is no measure of good health to be well adjusted to sickness. And so, but knowing is half the battle. That's G.I. Joe. And so just being able to recognize the sickness is like the first step, because if you don't realize it, then not that you necessarily get caught up in it, but you kind of do. I mean, you are essentially subject to it because you don't know, you can't see it, so you don't know how to avoid it, you don't know how to recognize it, and that's a huge issue. And so super dry lips, eating terrible gluten. Yeah, so it's like, if you don't know how to recognize the signs of sickness, and some people just accept them, and some people embrace them. But if that's not you, I mean, then what do? You can't tell other people how to be. You can't force your views, opinions. You can't force your way of life on somebody else. It's not your job to school other people. I mean, if you want to be able to lead your life and believe what you believe, you got to respect other people in the same way. I mean, and of course there's a there is a line there. There is something that Lao Tzu says, is that what is a good man but a bad man's teacher? What is a bad man but a good man's job or woman? So it's like, we do have a responsibility to each other, but we also have to respect each other as individuals, and we have to respect ourselves. Yeah, but so anyways, like, coming back, I've decided to be very conscious, very aware of what it is that is causing unrest in my life. It's sometimes, yeah, you can point the finger in the wrong direction, barking up the wrong tree. And of course it doesn't yield results. It's important to get to the root of, we deal with causes, not symptoms. That's basic. And so, I mean, it's easy to say. It's it can be challenging to put into practice, but whatever the case, I came back and I started, but with my eyes open, and it's just like, okay, what is going on here? That is, because I know that, like, when I'm in the right place, it just comes out. I don't even have to try to write things that are beautiful and profound. It just comes through me. And trying to force stuff. So there was a number of things that I was doing wrong. I was, like I said, I was struggling with that. And so is with my writing. So it's like, okay, what am I going to do? How am I going to move forward in my life? Because it's like, that's everything to me. I'm pointing at my computer because that's what it equals to me, right? But, and so it's like, if I'm not making progress in that, then that has a very big impact in my life, because it's like my way out of my present circumstance, right? And so when it's not going well, that can be challenging for me. And so then I start looking for other ways it's like, okay, well, maybe I got to do this or do that. And I've been single for probably like 3 or 4 years now, and so I thought, maybe it'd be good to have a girlfriend, and get involved with somebody, and so that you have that sangha, that support system, right? And yeah, I mean, and it's beautiful. I love being in a relationship. I don't, you know, but yeah, and so I've tried dating apps in the past, and with zero, I've never anything. I've never even, I've tried them many times. I've never even anything kissed a girl as a result of anything that has come from a dating app. They do not. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I find that there's such a waste of time. But then I decided, I was like, okay, I'll get on Bumble and Tinder, and just like to see. I've tried the vegan ones. I find, yeah, I mean, like it just not to be the world for me. Yeah, I mean, it's a funny thing. A profile. This is my profile. Look at me, right? This is what I'm putting myself forward as, and I've ran into some, you know, just to say it, yeah, there's been some flaky individuals that I've run into. I mean, just like in real life. I mean, and some people might think that about me, but I don't concern myself with what other people think about me. Um, but so, I went on there, and I figured, I was just like, okay, I'll just set up these profiles. I'm not going to do any of the swiping, and I'll just eventually like pay, and then you can like see who has saw yours, and you can boost so everybody like sees your profile. I was like, oh yeah, but it just turned into the same thing that it always does, not paying and just scrolling through profiles, incessantly whenever you're bored, because it's just like it's a pastime, and you might think that it's going to lead to something, so you think you're, I don't know, but and I can recognize that it works for some people, but I found myself just, because then I found myself in a mindset where I was desirous of a relationship rather than just like accepting things for what they are. And it's like, just when it happens, it happens. When I see my girlfriends, they know them right away. I mean, I believe in love at first sight. If I would never, yeah. And so, yeah, I just found it to be really unhealthy for myself, for where I sit mentally, and for what I occupy myself with, the things that I put time and effort into, because it takes time to build that perfect profile, to get all those pics just right. Be like, this is who I am, and then you change it, and then you change it again, and be like, okay, maybe I'll, different strategies, and just like, and all the while, like not necessarily lusting after women, but certainly, it became an entity in my life, and it's just like, so as soon as it came back, I recognized that. I was like, this is silly. This is not in alignment with anything that I believe, and I see myself spending time doing something that's going nowhere, literally. And it's just the same pattern. Like I said, that's been my experience in the past. So I deleted them both last night, and I had the best sleep ever last night. Because I removed something that I consider to be toxic from my life, right? Not anybody else, like for some people it might make sense, but it was so good to delete a toxic element of my life. And you can't always delete the toxic elements at a button, but that one you can. So what an improvement. And just like, I also really decided to, like, coming back, I almost got caught up in some other things, and I decided, when it came down to it, to just listen to my intuition, and which is to be very careful about what I get caught up with doing, especially if there are elements of that endeavor which I do not resonate with. And so huge for mental health, right? Because you get yourself caught up in things. I mean, man, and then you have to live with that until the next time. Or you can just start making the right decisions right now and not worry about certain things, not use what is it not use fear-based logic as a disguised as practicality, not using fear-based logic disguised as practicality, as like a means, a justification, a resolve, I don't know, like as some reason to do something. I am not into that. I've done it enough and it hasn't brought me happiness, right? I'd rather just trust, have faith, surrender, let go, and just wait for, just trust that, make the best use of your time and just let go of the rest and don't, it'll work out. Don't worry about it. If push comes to shove, you'll figure it out. But don't, like keep your eyes on the prize, right? And that's your own mental health, I would say, my own. So yeah, that was huge, because sometimes when you have to make a decision on something that you're going to do in your life, whether you're going to go here or go there or do this or do that, you have to make a decision sometimes and then wonder, it's just like, did I make the right one? But so far so good, everything that I've been my actions over the last day, I can tell just by how I feel in my body. Like my flexibility is on point with, and I haven't even been practicing that much yoga. And that says something. It means that tension is low in my body. It means that I am not stressed out. It means that, yeah. And I mean, of course, diet has a lot to do with that. I've finally found a diet that is working for me. So I am a devout fruitarian, but living in Canada in the wintertime, the fruits are not here. I mean, and to eat stuff that's been shipped, it doesn't make sense. So I've been eating squashes. It's basically paleo, but vegan, but raw. But so I cut out, just no more rice or very little rice, only like if I'm out somewhere and like somebody buys me a meal. But I don't have any at home because it's just too easy to cook and just doesn't sit well with me. So no grains, no quinoa, no rice, no corn. And I've just been eating squash and yams, things that are really flavorful, staying away from any bland tasting anything that's bland. And I've been doing really good with that because you don't have, like a yam, it's sweet and it's got a lot of flavor to it. You don't have to like put a lot on it to make it taste good or to really enjoy it. I fried up these mushrooms yesterday, shiitake mushrooms. Oh my God. They were so good. And literally, so like shiitake mushrooms in a pan with some coconut oil and olive oil, because I like both flavors, and then salt and pepper, and then a little bit of this. So there's this stuff, it's called like chili miso paste. Chili miso oil, and just a little bit of the oil, and holy, it's not very spicy because I don't like spicy food. I do, but my body doesn't. And man, they were killer. the texture of shiitake mushrooms, they're very meaty. They have a texture to them. They have a bounce to them, like they're squishy, you know, and they don't just crumble. They're a bit of a chew. And like made right, holy smokes, dinner last night was awesome. You know, and I'm just so happy that I found my way with this whole, you know, I recognize raw food to be supreme. This is it. It is raw food. I've gone to and from raw food so many times, and I'm back, and it's awesome. You know, it is for me, and but fruit mainly. Not many salads, but yeah, but also loving it, living here in Canada, eating these things, you know, eating what is, like, I believe that, not believe, but I like the idea that you eat what's alive from the land, or the land will eat you alive. That is one of my little sayings. And that's like, say, the 100-mile diet. You know, you try to eat what's local, in season, fresh. You know, for me, it's whole, fresh, raw, ripe, organic fruits and vegetables, in season, local, dirt grown, you know, to the greatest extent possible, practicable. And it has worked for me, and that's great. So yeah. And so now, you know, I find myself here, it's a Sunday, and I'm going to go help a little old lady hang her Christmas lights, because she's my friend. And yeah. And so, but the important thing right now is just like to take stock of everything in my life right now, and not just jump back into things. You know, I gotta work tomorrow, there's a few days there, it's good, and this and that, but to really just take a moment to practice what I preach, and like get centered, not on the mat. I am sitting on a yoga mat, not just when I'm meditating, you know, get centered in life, get grounded in life. And so I'm not essentially forcing myself to do anything. I'm not trying to, you know, it's like that my book will come when it comes. I'm almost done, but you don't rush. It was the big lesson of this weekend. You do not try to rush a job to completion. Like, what a fallacy, what a mistake. Like trying to pick an apple before it's ripe. It's something that Lao Tzu says as well, that like, if you try to rush a project to completion, you spoil what was almost ready. And like, we're painting this house, and there was a driving force. It's just like, okay, more paint, okay, do it again, do another coat, cut it in again. It's just like, no, it needs to dry. And this person didn't really understand working with this material. This person works with other material, but with this material, you cannot do that. And so we just did what we were told, and it was frustrating, because if you try to paint wet paint, it's like it resaturates the paint underneath, and then it like sags, and then you basically have a nightmare. You have what was a wall that is getting painted and almost done, and then you have paint falling off the wall in giant sags. And it's just like, it was challenging, right? So anyways, yeah, like, so anyways, the point is just right now I've reached a place in my life where I think, yeah, I'm just, for the next, as long as it takes, I assume it'll take, like, you know, a few days, or maybe a week, or I don't know. I don't think it takes long, you know, to turn your entire life around. If you take the time to sit with yourself, to do that self-inquiry, to take stock of what's going on, and to stand back from everything that's happening in your life, the relationships that you're involved with, and just stop. Just be like, no, 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 I'm not going to go around that person today. I'm not gonna put myself over here. I'm not gonna go do this and that. Unless this person is heart-based, I'm not gonna get involved. Yeah. And it's just like, it doesn't take long to reach your center, to find that place of peace. And then it's just like, for myself at least, the inspiration just comes, the vision comes, but you have to get to a place where you're receptive enough, and it's a part of sensitivity. You have to be you can't be in a harsh environment, because then you're on guard. In order to be highly receptive, sensitive, it needs to be a safe space. It needs to be a place, like this is, and that's why I'm in my bedroom, because this is my place. This is my sacred sanctuary right now. And nobody knocks on my door, because they know that I'm in here doing things. So it's like, I have peace here, and I can focus, and that's important. So yeah, I'm going to spend the next couple of days just doing what's really important, and that is, I'm going to practice more yoga. I'm going to make a plan, and I'm just going to not get caught up in other, there's a thing that I say about writing a book, because there's a chapter in my book about how to write a book. And it says, the first rule of finished writing a book is, don't get caught up in other people's lives, and don't let other people into yours. It's not that that's a recommendation for all of life, but it's like, sometimes you need to focus on some stuff, and it's like going to school. But what you're learning is yourself, and you're learning life. You're learning your patterns, and you're focusing on the things that are most important to you. And so that is what I'm doing. It's already kind of come up. There was something that happened last night that was interesting. I live not alone here, and I ended up having a conversation with somebody about certain things, and then certain topics about like Freemasons and that kind of stuff came up, conspiracies, and I have zero interest in that kind of stuff, but it came out in a conversation, and then like later this person said, because it got to talking about the moon and this and that. Just very briefly, but it spilled over into the evening, and then this person said, oh, well, blah, 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 this. And then I was like, huh. And then I come upstairs, and I'm like referencing these movies that I've watched, and like looking on the internet for, I don't know, to corroborate my own story or whatever, right? And then, after a little while, it took a minute, and I was like, and then I went down, I was like, what I said to this person, I was like, why I don't involve myself in all this kind of stuff is just because it doesn't add anything to my life at all. Looking into conspiracy theories, it doesn't. When I watch those movies or go to those websites, I don't leave feeling empowered. I don't even feel informed, because it's like everything is secondhand knowledge. If you haven't seen it for yourself, you don't know the agenda of anybody that's putting anything out there, or how confused or lost or misguided they might be. And so, and then to get yourself carried away, to get you, it's like you pay attention to that stuff, and it's like, do you feel empowered? No. Does it help you feel peaceful? No. Does it, like, what does it add to your life? Like, nothing. Anxiety? Do you feel like a victim now because you've looked and said, okay, all this kind of bad stuff, and so it's like, it's inherently negative. And then so like, then I stepped away for a minute, and I came back, and I was like, what, I think at the core, what bothers me the most about all the conspiracy theory stuff, and I'm not going to discount it. You know, it was a part of my path. I looked into everything and I found out that there is more than one story to absolutely everything that you are aware of, you know, and I still do believe that, right? But taking that inquiry further, it's thin ice, at least for myself and for the reasons that I'm saying. And I realized it's like, hold on a second, what is it that really gets me about this? And then it dawned on me, because it's like intellectual. And so then we're talking ego and stuff like that, because it's like, well, I think this, or I believe this, well, based on the research that I did. And then it's like this idea versus that idea, and then and it's about proving things, and like, wow, you know, and it's like the opposite of heart-based. And so, like, I don't consider myself to have stuck my head in the sand. I am aware that there's all kinds of stuff that's going on, but I'm also aware of the spiritual side of stuff too. And so it's like, I would rather focus on solutions and positivity. I would rather focus on empowerment and sharing stories of inspiration and that bring joy, and that, yeah, you know, being that kind of an influence and having those types of conversations rather than having debates or arguments. I mean, it was a topic that came up. What's the difference between an argument and a debate? It came up this weekend, and I figure that the difference is a debate is people are looking for an answer, whereas an argument is somebody thinks that they already have the answer, and then they're trying to prove that. And so whether to somebody else or to themselves or whatever, right? But pretty, yeah, you know, and I tell you, the moment, because like this is an ongoing progression of recognizing people who are up here, predominantly, in recognizing when you're, because I do have an intellectual side to me, but I'm also heart-based. And so being able to recognize when somebody else is up here and they're being argumentative, they're being challenging, it's about, they're trying to prove something, you know, they might have a bias, or, you know, the bias just might be based on all the research that they did. So then they think something is right and they're trying to prove it to you or show you, or, you know, or whatever it is. But, and like for myself, being able to recognize when people are in their ego and trying to push something, to push an agenda, to push a perspective, or, you know, or to make your perspective sound silly or whatever it is, you know, and then being able to recognize that and step away, and not being like, oh, well, try to show them, you know, you don't fight fire with fire. You fight fighting with just walking away. Be like, you know what? But there, of course, there's finesse to it. You know, you can't say, you know what, because it just gets a person's ego going. You know, for myself nowadays, I just say this. I recognize this conversation to not be heart-based. I can't prove anything that we're talking about either way. It doesn't add anything to my life. I don't care to argue about stuff. You know, I like to talk about what's beautiful in the world and share that. Beautiful in my life, you know, the things that really inspire me and, you know, bring me joy and all that kind of stuff. So yeah, it's great to be able to avoid those types of conflicts, because it's what they are, I would say, you know, is ego conflicts. When, one-upping at each other. Yeah, well, this, yeah, well, that. It's just like, yeah, well, no thanks. I'm good. And like I said, it's not sticking your head in the sand. Like, I actually think that it's using a higher logic, because if you understand the world to be a reflection of who you are as a person, and for the language of physical reality to be action, the most important thing is not to sit and have debates about things, what do they call it, preaching in vain, talking about things that you have no way to really prove. And so, what was I saying? Just, yeah, I don't know. Maybe that's a sign that I'm done talking. I'll take that as a sign right there. If I can't remember, I lost my train of thought. Good enough. But I like this. I like just sitting down and having a conversation. I've always wanted to make videos like this. Not about some giant topic or whatever. I'm glad that I made those ones. I find myself here now, and it's nice to just talk. I found that in life there's nothing that I couldn't wrap my mind around just talking about it. Whether it's challenging things to do with like the American Indian people, or like with Black African American people, or like just certain topics that are like huge, that like it blows up and everybody's talking about it, Israel and Gaza and all that kind of stuff. When you just talk about it, heart-based too, right? Not like just looking, just fleshing it out. It's like it all, I don't know, it helps something. So, although, I had a nice idea back in the day that I wanted to have a channel where I would have like a talk show, and where we would just talk, because I do very well when I'm stimulated by the things that other people say. I mean, as opposed to just sitting here and rambling on about my own experiences. So, that might be a thing for the future. I bought all the stuff to, like, microphones and things like that, to interview people and have conversations. Is just not materialized, but yeah, you never know. Could be something. So I'll leave you with that. I'm gonna stop there for real, and yeah. I love you, and namaste. Light in me salutes the light in you.